Welcome back to Following Know It On, a Stormlight podcast. This week is episode 182, and we are in chapter 65 through 70 of The Hero of Ages, well into part 5 of the last book of Mistborn Era 1. Eliot, how are you?
Good. I'm chilling, literally and figuratively. Been a little chilly lately. There's a good foot of snow out my back door right now. It's kind of piled up the last few snowstorms. And like ash slowly piling up and taking over the world. That's the snow in my backyard right now.
How much snow do you have outside your door, Paul?
Well, I don't want to brag. I'm not about that. But it actually rained for the last 3 days, so nothing at the moment. But it has been rainy. If it were just cold enough in Texas to actually snow, then maybe we would have had that. But high of 70 tomorrow, so be nice and sunny.
You know, I felt bad. My lovely and dear wife went to Barnes and Noble for me and to purchase a copy of The Way of Kings because I want to give a copy of The Way of Kings to one of my coworkers who's leaving this coming week. And she slipped on ice on the way out of Barnes and Noble and bruised her knee pretty bad. So I felt bad about that, but it was all in the name of buying a Sanderson book, so it's worth it, right? But I guess that's not hazards you have in Texas, huh?
Nope, nope. We had like a really big freeze a couple years ago, and
I remember
I
that.
like whenever that happened, it was unironically really bad. Of like it rained and froze really bad, and I think Texas literally put in new legislation to like I don't know. Legislation sounds really strong, but they've added a lot of precaution to try and have a level of preparedness because there was nothing. There was no fixing the roads. Just nobody could do anything for like 3 days. So
All right. Let's roll intro and then we'll get a chapter summary from Eliot. Whenever you're ready, Eliot.
Okie doke. Well, if it wasn't getting exciting before, we're really getting to it now. The end of the book is in sight. Maybe a mere 150 pages, something like that. So to set the scene, we're still at Badrek City with Elend and his whole army outside the city. He chooses not to attack, which seems like a very important decision. I actually want to talk about that specifically. He does not attack, but Ruin instigates the battle anyway, and taking control of the Koloss in the meanwhile. Vin, who's still being held captive by yeomen in the city, comes up against Marsh, who is there, and Ruin is there. Everyone's kind of there together. Vin and Marsh have a bit of a showdown. Vin is able to draw upon the mists for the third time ever. The third time.
Second.
Second. She tried to do it before, and it wouldn't go right.
Right.
She was fighting Zane, and it wouldn't do it. Second successful time. She is able to chase off Marsh, gains control of him through kind of that allomancy pushing on a healer creature method. So interesting things happening there. But Ruin gets control of Marsh again. Marsh scampers off. Everything's going crazy. Over in Sazed's world, arrives at the homeland of the Kandra with Tensoon, and they engage in dialogue about history and religion and trying to maybe decipher what Ruin doesn't want them to know. Lots of interesting little bits and pieces there. And then let's see, it's kind of wrapping up. Yeah, Elend discovers a pretty big discovery that the mists that has been causing everyone to get sick or even die apparently is on their side, and the mist has been causing people to snap and become allomancers. So all these mist fallen that have become ill or fallen to the mist are actually now allomancers. So Ellen realized, hey, I've got a whole army of allomancers with me, and being praised. And where we leave it at chapter 70.
The mists. I want to start at the mists. It's really odd to me that it has 16% of people falling ill to the mists, and then 1/6 of those die. Was that the math?
I don't remember the number, but yeah, a portion of them.
So then that would leave 5/6 of 16% to be either Mistborn or a misting. So I feel like somewhere in there, I've lost the sauce on the math. Like, where does that work out to 16? Like, so there's going to be 16 mistings, and then Mistborn, so 17 possibilities, right? So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just get a little confused on. We're striking down 1/6 of the population, or is it 16% of the population? I don't remember. Anyway, blah blah blah. All this to say, preservation's being a little weird, in my opinion.
It's very cryptic, and while we see the number 16 a lot, it's still not clear to me why 16, I guess. I mean, there's they mention Ada Nauseam in this book, and there's stuff with that, but the number 16, I mean, maybe y'all know, maybe I'm forgetting something, but I still don't fully understand the full relevance of why 16 is important. I guess it is just preservation's a number here, and that's why it's important. Period. I don't know if there's supposed to be anything past that, but
Okay, you just said something interesting. You said it was preservation's number. Is that true? Or is it preservation and ruin's number, combined?
that may be more accurate.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
It's it's the number of elementic metals, so therefore I'm saying it's included. It's important to the investiture here. Therefore, I'm saying it's important to the shards here.
Right.
I've always assumed the elementic metal stuff, which, I mean, the metal is, I mean, they still have the same metals with hemalurgy and stuff, right? There are still those. It's a bit different, but it's still those, I guess, 16 abilities, I would say. So I think it is preservation and ruin there, but I guess it's, I mean, there are other numbers on other planets. 10 is a common, a number of significance and stuff like that. I think it's just a number of significance here in the story, and I can kind of leave it at that. But, they do really hit it home. They're 16%, that's come up a lot. There's 16 metals. It's really, it's what we've been waiting for this whole time. And while it's a neat coincidence, I don't know if it's the big takeaway,
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on, so yeah, no.
Yeah, I agree with where Trevor was going. Preservation is either weirdly specific, or maybe the Cosmere is weirdly specific and is kind of imposing rules on preservation. Preservation maybe is just trying to make as many answers as he can.
Right.
And there's metaphysics, whatever you want to call it, about the Cosmere that goes, nope, you can only have 16%.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still stuck on the question of is 16 specifically preservation's number or if it's preservation plus ruin, but I don't know if we'll ever know.
We got 4 more books on Scadrial, so we got 4 more books to figure it out.
Yeah, and okay, so just as a reference for you guys and for anyone listening, I will be rereading Mistborn Era 2 ahead of time for the podcast, so I know what to hint at and what to not to. I have learned my lesson. It only took me, 4 years of this podcast, but I will be rereading Mistborn Era 2 ahead of time, so as to not, blunder my way into spoiling something. Eliot, you said there's an interesting way to open this episode of Vin. So at the last chapter of last episode, Vin predicts or bluffs, maybe? I don't know the right word to say. That tells Ruin and Yeoman Elend won't attack. I'm confident Elend won't attack. And then at the beginning of chapter 65, Elend is having a conversation with Ham, and Ham says, "No, you know what? This is not right." And Elend says, "Yeah, you're right. I just came to the same conclusion at the same time. So let's pull back and let's retreat." How did Vin know that Elend would come to that conclusion?
How did Vin know? The more intriguing question to me is why did Elend, but we'll get to that in a second. How did Vin know? I don't know. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it was a having faith or hope in Elend. Maybe the kind of hope where it's, man, I really hope he does this, so I'm going to pretend like that's exactly what he's going to do and hope I speak it into existence kind of thing.
You remember the name of the part?
I remember the name of the part. I do not.
Trust.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is incredibly fitting. I love that as an aside. That's like why Elend and Vin are together. That's what Vin liked about Elend, was that he trusted her. And then now we're seeing that trust reciprocated, which is really, really cute, really fun, and just like really meaningful as we go forward. And yeah, I love that. Maybe when Eliot gives his word, his summary of part 5, he may have an easier time coming up with a word. You don't have to use trust, but I'm like, you could go with the title, and I feel like you could make a case for it,
At least maybe it won't be quite as depressing as the themes I've pulled from the previous parts.
That's true. It's at least not like despair or something like
Right.
that, something kind of positive.
So a quick rundown of the battle here. Elend sets up his troops, then decides not to attack, pulls them back. And then Ruin through Marsh, forces Yeoman to attack, rushes out of his gates to attack. Then Elend sounds a full retreat, like they were going to take their time packing up and leave. But as they're getting attacked, they run away and leave. And they have their Koloss go first because they can clear the ash a lot faster, and then all the soldiers can, just leave. Koloss get about, 100 yards down the field. Ruin turns the Koloss back onto Elend. Yeoman takes this as a sign of his loyalty being rewarded to the Lord Ruler, of, yes, you've delivered me from my enemies, that type of thing. And then Vin takes control of her 1,000 Koloss, which conveniently Ruin forgot about, and turns them on Yeoman's soldiers, which then swaps Yeoman to thinking these Koloss are not what I think they are. That they have the ability to turn on my soldiers. That convinces him to let Elend into the city against the Koloss, and that's how kind of the battle ends up. So it's Elend and Koloss against Yeoman. Yeoman attacks, Koloss attack, Elend switches to Yeoman's side, and at the end of the episode, Elend and Yeoman are taking refuge in Fadrex, and Vin leaves at the end of the episode to lead Ruin away. And that's how we leave the episode. So by the end of the episode, Yeoman's kind of hanging out. He's, we talked last episode, this guy's still around. Yep, he's still here. And now he's an ally.
I will never forget Eliot calling Yeoman the banana for scale.
Banana for scale.
That has really stuck with me, and I don't think I will. I don't think I will ever forget it. I really don't.
You're welcome.
That's my new favorite. Like if I started over right now and reread it, I would just be thinking of that the entire time that I hear his name. And I'm really thankful for that because Yeoman has, served his purpose in the story, but he's just not my favorite character. He's not the most notable. So I now have something to attach to his name, which I think is really fun.
Yep. Yeoman the banana. I liked this whole scene because of this whole kind of drawn out series of scenes because of Elend's role in it. Actually, you've got Ruin, who is just trying to destroy. He just wants Kolos to crush humans, to crush humans, to crush Kolos. He just wants carnage. And Elend resists. Elend's not spiked as far as we know. In fact, I think one of the epigraphs specifically mentioned that he wasn't spiked.
Yep.
So it's not like he's not quite like Vin or others that are actively battling Ruin in their minds, but he still is battling the will of Ruin, and he does it really well in the scene twice. Specifically, he chooses not to attack. As the army, part of the whole reason why he's there is to defeat Yeoman and get to Ash, the ATM, all that kind of stuff he thinks are there, and he doesn't. He's the one in all this acting against the destructive motive of Ruin, and I love that. I love the standing up against everything and not making the easy decision, making the not obvious but correct decision to not attack. Good on Elend.
It was the dying wish of preservation, though Elend didn't know who he was talking to at the time. I didn't remember exactly how Fadrex ended up, or how the battle ended. So that this was refreshing for me. I knew that Vin eventually ran back towards Luthadel, but I didn't remember why or how. So rereading this was nice.
Which, by the way, let's talk about that for a second. So Vin's role in all this eventually results in she realizes some things, can't say them aloud because Ruin will hear her.
Yep.
And decides, like in her own head, she can't share this plan with anyone. She's just going to run away and try and draw Ruin with her. And she just successfully drew on the mist. And she comes to the conclusion that she has to be in moments of like true dire need.
Yeah, that's her plan.
And so she's like, all right, that's the plan. I just need to put myself in such ridiculous dire need that the mist has to help me.
Yeah.
That is such a Vin way to make a decision. That is no other character anywhere makes a decision with the fate of their entire planet hanging on it as I need to put myself in as much danger as possible. Done. Let's go.
Well, I guess the title of this part is Trust. So she's just reckless abandon, put her trust in the mist here. It worked before, and so it's just it's reckless abandon. But that is why she does it ultimately. As insane as it is, I think she does trust that will happen. Maybe it's more hope than trust, I guess. Maybe she more so has trust for Elend and hope that the mists will bail her out again. And she doesn't understand. She still doesn't understand how or why the mists would, help her. Which is pretty baffling. But also at this point, in my head, I wonder, like, what other choice does she really have? It really sucks, but I feel like she doesn't really have much else to do. And so it's like, Might as well. Might as well try this again. See if I'll get bailed out again by the mists. So
When you're against the super smart, omnipresent god Ruin, and he's thought of every outcome, you just got to be stupid, and he won't see it coming, and then he'll doubt himself. There you go.
It's actually, as kind of making fun of Vin, but it's honestly not the worst plan. We've talked before. We don't even know what our heroes are supposed to do. We don't even know what the goal is or how to stop Ruin. We just have some vague ideas, or Sazed has a few questions that still remain, but there's no quest. There's no goal at this point. It's stop Ruin. Oh yeah, we have no idea how to do that. So yeah, the world's falling apart. Everyone's dying. Doing just crazy random stuff to try and get lucky. That probably is the most valid strategy at this point, to be honest.
isn't that what Vin says? Like she doesn't really know what to do, so she just tries to get him to play his hand, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like maybe if he shows more of what he's trying to do, then she can, she can figure something out. It's not watertight by any means, but it's like the effort, the only thing I guess to try and do.
Speaking of hints and questions we're not quite sure what to do with, but there's another one that stood out to me in this chapter 60. Is it 65? Yeah, 65, where she has the showdown with Marsh. I've been keeping my eye on tracing what happens to it. Vin's earring.
Okay.
I keyed into that a long time ago. We are trying to figure that out. At this point, we've realized that it's a spike. It's in Vin's body. We know that has implications with Ruin. Vin can see Ruin. I put all that much together now. So I'm watching it. I'm watching that earring closely. That earring does something rather dramatic in this chapter. It flies straight through Marsh's skull.
Yeah. And then she puts it right back in her ear.
Yes, she does. She takes it out
true.
and she shoots it through Marsh, temporarily taking him out, which, by the way, is like exactly what Kelsier told her, right? At one point, this was Kelsier.
Yep.
Like, yeah, you should hang on to that. Maybe you might find yourself in a pinch one day and need to shoot it at somebody. That's exactly what she just did.
At his brother.
At his brother,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I noticed Vin draws upon the mist after that earring incident. The earring comes out, shoots through Marsh, then Vin draws on the mist and is able to successfully gain control of Marsh with like a super Duralaman style push. And I don't know quite what to do with that other than I'm watching that earring closely, and it's going to be important.
Yeah, I won't say much more than that. I agree.
And also, Marsh goes all ferochemy in this scene and grows like monster size as well, as if he didn't need more superpowers. I don't know if we knew if he could do that or not.
I didn't remember if we knew that or not.
I mean, it's not a surprise at this point because we've learned enough about hemalurgy to know that you can steal allomantic powers. I think it's been at least hinted at, if not directly talked about in the epigraphs, that you can do aerochemy type stuff with hemalurgy as well. So it wasn't a surprise to me, other than it was like, oh, Marsh can do that now.
Yeah.
So he's becoming awfully hard to stop. Although unless you have an earring, I guess you can shoot through his brain. Although she doesn't take his spikes out. Like Rosell, in that moment, I was like, Vin, you should know enough by now that if you want to stop him, you gotta spike him. She had a moment and she missed it.
She didn't have medals at that point, did she? She used the opportunity to steal his medals.
Yes, but there's a moment. So she uses the moment the opportunity she gets, she steals the medal. Yes. Then she battles with him. defeats him by shooting the earring through his skull. He's now down on the ground.
Oh, okay.
She like goes to do other stuff, and then I forget exactly how it all happens. But there was a moment there where it was like, if you had reached down and pulled the spike out, then you could have ended Marsh, and she doesn't.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because she was too busy trying to like debate with Yeoman to pull his troops back. Like
Probably.
she was holding off Marsh like over here, and then shouting at Yeoman as well.
Anyway, Marsh escapes, runs off. Vin puts the earring back in. We move on.
Okay, I do want to talk about Marsh. He escapes into chapter like 69, 68.
Yep.
And he completely decapitates, literally, the entire Spook storyline. Spook has sent good Captain Goradel in search of Vin through the mist, through the ash by himself, and just kind of nonchalantly, Marsh crests this hill and says, "Oh look, there's a dude." Chops his head off, keeps walking. Like, what? Like that was the whole half the book that we spent with Spook to gain this little piece of information on this metal, and it's gone. Marsh reads the note, kills the horse, kills the guy, and keeps walking. I thought that was. I did not see that coming. I thought that was kind of weird.
It is funny. Also, I will say, if you're listening to the audiobook of this and you are kind of you kind of have to pay attention, because for a second there, I've already read this book, but for a second there, like, you hear Marsh is killing this guy, reads the note, signed Spook, and I'm like, for a split second, I was like, did he just kill Spook? Oh my gosh. But then I realized, I was like, no, this wasn't actually Spook. But honestly, the phrasing of it, I guess if you weren't 100% zoned in at the moment, it kind of sounds like he kills Spook.
Yeah,
which is not what happens. I will say also, isn't it pretty? I could be wrong. I think it's kind of intentional after he kills him and reads it, that this was like, I mean, he's mostly completely controlled by Ruin. Like, he's pretty completely controlled by Ruin, but all the stuff we've seen is that Ruin is not 100% controlling him all the time. Like, he's controlling a lot of people and isn't always paying full attention to everybody. But isn't this pretty orchestrated by Ruin? Like, he like, that's why he did. Yeah. Marsh isn't just like himself running around looking for this guy to kill him or whatever.
Yeah, Ruin was definitely doing this.
I think Ruin knew what was going on, and kind of did that, which I guess it makes a lot more sense, I guess, than if it were just Marsh on his own.
I don't know. This took me by surprise. I thought Goradel was going to, show up while Vin is fighting, a bunch of Inquisitors, or like Ruin himself or something, and be like, take out the earring, and then that's the epic moment. No, he just gets his head chopped off. The end.
It is one of those threads that seems like it was pointed out deliberately. Like, we spent time with Spook realizing that, writing it down. Oh, I must get this to Vin. Oh, I'll take it against all odds. I'll see if I can get it there. And then to have it, so just abruptly was a little jarring. Maybe that's Brandon intentionally telling us, hey, you can't always read the meta and try and know where I'm going just because it was clearly an important moment. Nope. Right. Sometimes there'll be more important moments that come to absolutely nothing.
We talk about Sazed?
Definitely should talk about Sazed.
Alrighty. So, Tensoon eats a pig and then a horse and becomes Pig Horse Tensoon, so he can super run across the Final Empire and deliver Sazed to the homeland. What'd you think of Super Hog Horse, Kandra?
Super Hog Horse. I love it.
I was trying not to laugh, I think. Although I can hear the epic score, the music, as Sazed gallops across the ash filled on the giant horse to save the world. But just the sight of like zombie huge horse Tensoon seems comical in my mind. I don't know exactly why. Maybe it would look just fine and normal, but just imagine like little baby Sazed on top of this giant like Clydesdale size, Shadium size. I don't even know. Horse just kind of barreling through the ash.
Yeah. I just thought it was an odd detail to include. Yep, and Tensoon ate a hog to accomplish this. But it did open my eyes to, okay, Kandra can eat multiple skeletons and morph multiple things at the same time, which is an interesting concept. Like you could get like a cool Pegasus mount something going on. You could get some wings and some
True.
horse and fly around.
Would they have something? I mean, I guess he'd have to make that, but would he have any like big enough wings to? We not like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, would he be able to make wings that size? Does he have to have? I don't know. Maybe that's probably a rabbit hole I shouldn't go down. But I'm like, Pegasus got to have some big wings, not just like a crow, like some like bird or whatever that he found,
Yeah.
But that'd be pretty cool.
The pig was a good reminder for me that we're talking about Mist Wraith type creature where he can't just magically swell to whatever size he wants. He needs the physical muscles, so he has to ingest the pig to get just all that raw material of muscle and bone and sinew to then create the massive horse. He can't just be whatever he wants. He has to build it. It's
Legos. Yes. Okay. In the midst of all this death and destruction, I believe Gorodel dies the chapter right after this happens. Sazed shows up in a rather comical scene to the homeland, and the Kandra guards, like these poor like 9th, 10th generation kid Kandra guards who are sitting out there, have quite the reaction to Sazed saying, "Oh no, I'm a human. Can you take me to your leader, please?" I thought that was a good comical scene because he turns some heads as he walks into the homeland here.
He also follows that up with some. It's almost bluffing in a way. He dramatically marches into the main council chamber, announces with a capital A. He calls himself the announcer, and then announces that Vin is the new hero in this very dramatic, very religious way. That we know that Sazed has kind of given up on religion.
Yeah.
At this point. And so for him to, in this moment, kind of act the part and put on a show for the Kandra to try and win them over, get their attention or whatever he's going for, he's kind of playing on a bluff. I think he's not quite sure how the Kandra are going to react or what exactly they believe or what they're going for. He kind of has a few hints and hunches, and he just kind of goes all in this moment.
He does use all this knowledge as like a cudgel almost to get to work his way in. His entire strategy for like, well, we'll set his personal stuff aside for a second. He wants to know what Ruin's up to. And the way he figures this out is, okay, you guys have the original religion. I have a bunch of like hand-me-downs and root, or you have the root religion. So Sazed has the
branches?
Sure, there you go. Like the offshoots religions. So he's like, okay, how did Ruin manipulate these from this, and we can figure out what he's up to. Because we need to know why he was changing these things, or we figure out what he was changing, and then we can try to figure out why. Which is an interesting approach.
It's actually really clever. And I'm a little frustrated with myself that I didn't see this, because either last episode or the episode before, I was complaining, it's probably last episode, that we don't know how to go after Ruin. We don't even know how to stop him. We don't know how to go look for more information. We don't even know what to do. And all we had is this hope that Sazed was going to go and learn about the Kandra religion, and maybe a nugget would reveal itself of, oh, there's a secret to defeat Ruin. I should have come to this conclusion because it's actually really clever. We've been told that the first generation of Kandra are the original Paris Pac-Men that were with Rashek on the day of everything 1,000 years ago. So they have the truth. That alone may not be everything they need, but Sazed has the ruin-tainted version. And so this is genius. Take the original, compare it to what you know Ruin has changed, and it will point you directly to what Ruin doesn't want you to know.
Right.
You still might have to put the pieces together. You still are going to have to solve the puzzle, but at least now you can find, now you have the pieces of the puzzle. You can know, oh, Ruin changed that. Obviously, he didn't want us to know that. And so being able to compare notes like this between the original and the corrupted version is actually brilliant. Brilliant move.
Yeah, I agree. The first generation reveal themselves. Up until now, they've said one sentence to Konpar, but they come down from their high cathedral tower and shocked the rest of the Kandra, as if they weren't shocked by Sazed already. That's kind of where we leave Sazed. At the end of the episode, he's beginning to compare notes, but he hasn't discovered anything yet. So
super quick, I told you so moment. Not really, I told you so. There's a prediction that came true. Maybe one of the easiest predictions of this series. I claimed at the end of last book, I want to say, there's a little diagram of the different allomantic metals. And in the back of book 2, it forms an incomplete circle. And as soon as I saw that, I instantly knew this is Brandon. He likes things that are complete and symmetrical and fit nicely. That for sure is going to be a complete circle, which if you count up, the missing segments, meant that there would be 16 allomantic metals. Well, Yeoman comes out and says that specifically in chapter 70. He goes, oh yeah, and by the way, there's 16 metals. And I think it's Elend is there at the moment.
yeah,
Is like, what? And a scene closes, I think. But that was my aha,
well,
I knew it moment.
And Yeoman says, well, I only know of 14, but I'm sure there's 16.
So I'd have to go back and do some counting, but I'm not sure exactly how many were missing out of those 16, or if we have. I don't think we have 16 that we know of. There's a few more to go to fill in, but at least according to Yeoman, there are 16.
It also depends on if you count the weird ones. Like, do you count silver? Do you count aluminum? Do you count atium? Like that there's some weird ones in there. Do they go in the pie chart or not?
And things like atium, surely yes. Things like aluminum, surely yes. Silver, probably. I don't know. Maybe when the book's done, I'll have to get out some drawing paper and sketch it all out and do an Excel spreadsheet on it.
There's a finished chart once you're done with the book. You don't need to do that. You can go look in the back of the book.
I might do it anyway.
Hey, come on, Trevor. Can't a man have any fun nowadays?
No. Anything before we get into Stormlight spoilers for this week, gentlemen?
All I had.
One thing I just want to say, this isn't necessarily a big conversation point, but the stuff that happens with with Sazed and Tensoon, I think Sazed is my favorite character in Mistborn Era 1. He's way up there for me on like all of Cosmere. Maybe my favorite Cosmere all-time character.
Wow.
Definitely way up there. Like in the top several. So I think he's awesome, and this stuff like is where it really hits home. Like Eliot kind of mentioned before of this like of kind of him having to find find his faith, find his belief or something. That's kind of the story he's going on here. And it's starting to dig into that more. It was kind of floating, I feel like, throughout a lot of the story of this book, at least. And it's starting to come into it here, and he's starting to dig into the Kandra, and it's where it's really awesome, and I just really like Sazed. So, yeah, that's just an aside.
Very
I'm
good.
gonna let the book
Stormlight stuff, but yeah.
just to tack onto your thought before we move on to Stormlight. I'm going to very carefully wait until the end of the book to draw any conclusions on Sazed. I'll leave it at that.
That's fair. I understand that.
What about future books? You're assuming that he's done by the end of this book? Huh?
Yeah, what the
Oh,
heck?
true. Totally fair. The end of this book is end of a trilogy, right? End of an arc. I will draw some conclusions or take a stance at the end of this book. That definitely possible he appears in the future, and I may have to revise those thoughts or get a new character arc for Sazed. At the end of this book, I'll share my thoughts.
All right. Paul, you have something on the outline for Stormlight spoilers?
Yes. So this is a question I have for y'all. Okay. Now we're past the veil of Stormlight spoilers. So, that's your formal warning if you're listening. In Stormlight, as where we are current Stormlight, end of Stormlight 4, beginning of looking toward the beginning of Stormlight 5. We know our characters are up against Odium. We know that's like the main threat.
If
That
not,
is who our characters are up against.
if not also cultivation. It might be.
Yes,
might be both of them.
That's fair. That's fair. For this, I'm just going to talk about Odium. I think Odium, there's at least some similarities you can kind of draw of Odium and Ruin. Now that we're getting to see Ruin, the individual, if you will, of Ruin a bit more, the I don't know, just the details of Ruin. And we've seen a bit of the details of Odium. What he is, what makes up Odium. It's this like passion, all this stuff, right? How do you feel about like our characters just being up against a shard? Like in Stormlight, I feel like there's a lot more I use the word in the outline like I think our Stormlight characters have more enlightenment.
Yeah.
I think they're a little more aware of the implications of what a shard is,
Right.
and what this means. I mean, I'm gonna take Hoyd out of the equation. Obviously, he knows like the most, but Dalinar, Yasna, I don't know, maybe she'll like. There's characters in them that just know a bit. I feel like about the implications of Odium. Maybe not Shallan. I threw that name out there, but they've been in the cognitive realm. A lot of our characters have been. They understand. They're way more Cosmere aware. There's even other characters that are kind of wild cards in here that I think probably do know, but we don't see that as much. Zyle and Azure, maybe. Thydakar, the Ghost Bloods. Like, there's a lot of people in the equation that are way more aware than our characters here are in Mistborn. Looking at Mistborn, we have Vin and Elend who are like learning this now. They're learning this. They're figuring it out right now. Sazed is learning about this, and a lot of it isn't necessarily like Cosmere Shard stuff. It's stuff related to the prophecy and the religion that they know there on Scadrial. That's what Sazed is mostly like looking into, right? But I'm curious to know how y'all feel about like we've talked about it. They don't really have there's no plan. Stormlight, there's this contest of champions kind of thing, like that there's this agreement, like that there's a bit set up. This, it's like, all right, I'm going to go try to figure out what Ruin wants to do, and then I guess I'll try to figure out, once I figure that out, what to do to defeat him. It's very Gone with the Wind and such. And so I feel like our characters like looking at it, I'm like, there's the odds of success are 0, like not 0, 0.1, you know. Versus Stormlight, I feel like they have a bit more awareness of what's going on, you know. So
Well,
I was curious to bring that point up to y'all.
like you said, in Stormlight, there's multiple tiers. Like Vin and Elend are kind of on the same level of Kaladin, where Kaladin's just kind of keep my head down, do what I know is right. Anything that happens way up there, like I'll react to, but I'm not worrying about it, right? And
Another thing I didn't point out. Go
ahead.
ahead and finish your point, but then I
But
have.
but then there's like Yasna and Wit and Renarin, like the people who are thinking bigger picture and are trying to fight Odium. Kaladin is not trying to fight Odium. He's trying to protect Bridge 4, and that's it. Like that's what he's trying to do. So Vin is trying to react and trying to fight Ruin as best she knows, but she doesn't know anything.
One thing I was going to throw in there is also in Stormlight, while we haven't gotten the most helpful information from them, there still are the heralds around, sort of around, and so there's just a lot more awareness on Roshar, I think, of who Odium is and what the situation is and stuff. So, like that can't hurt whenever you're up against a shard, you know.
As I was reading your note in the outline here, Paul, and hearing you talk, I thought of another comparison or interesting parallel between Roshar and Scadrial. We have a similar scenario in that we have I'll use these terms loosely, good shard and a bad shard fighting against each other.
More or less, yes.
Yeah, you're shaking your head, and I completely agree. I want to necessarily want to paint, shards as good or evil in this conversation. That's probably another conversation. Preservation versus ruin, honor versus odium. Cultivation's in the mix there somewhere. But here's the parallel. Preservation is dead. Honor is dead. In both scenes, at least as where we're at right now in the Hero of Ages, kind of equivalent. And that the shard that would fight to help or protect all our heroes is broken or shattered or dead. And so it's the heroes kind of taking up the fight against the destructive slash evil shard. So in that sense, I feel like it's really similar in that it's your common day hero, your paladin, your Vin, versus galactic cosmic power odium slash ruin. So I actually feel like they're really similar, even though maybe they don't quite understand as much as the Rosarians understand maybe a little more of the context of what's going on.
Anything else? Alrighty. Stormlight refresher, anyone?
Oh boy.
I always forget about these
Turn your brain on.
until it's in my face. Okay.
Let's go.
Paul, what's the score?
4-2?
4-2. You are trailing 2 points.
Yes.
Your lead with your chapter name. The Legend You Live.
The Legend You Live.
The Legend You Live.
I feel like I usually have a pretty educated guess with these. And I don't know if I have much of an educated guess for this one. The Legend You Live.
I forgot to preface this. This week's trivia is rather difficult.
Okay. The Legend You Live. Okay, I'm just gonna pick. I think I'm just gonna pick a chapter out of my memory. I think
something
The
epic.
Legend You Live. I think the thing that stuck in my head is that this is about someone that in Roshar is sort of legendary, if you will.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it's like a chapter that maybe not that we meet a herald. The Legend You Live. No, it has to be something like meaningful. I'm gonna go with that. This is okay, I'm gonna say this is some just random triumphant moment. I think this is when I really have so little for this. I'm gonna say this is the chapter that Shallan and Kaladin like come back to the camp after they've been stuck in the high storm in the chasm or whatever. I'm gonna say it's that, and they're kind of a little bit of a legend, and they lived through that horrible storm. So that's what I'm going with. You can give me the buzzer. That's fine.
Incorrect.
I was not sure on this one.
Eliot?
This is another one that's familiar. It's one of those I feel like I should know. I remember discussion about this vaguely, but not enough to pinpoint at events or characters specifically. But it's got to be one of those epic Paladin or Dalinar existential crisis moments. Maybe not like the climax, but at least the this is who I am or this is who I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be the legend that I live. I'm gonna lean Dalinar. Give you a vague enough answer that kind of applies to multiple chapters and hope that you give it to me. I think this is Dalinar somewhere in Oathbringer, like struggling with who he is and coming to grips with his and trying to move forward with being a better man.
You can be as vague as you want, but as soon as you said Dalinar, you were incorrect.
Ah,
This
It's a good
is
strategy, though. I'm gonna remember that. You know,
this is Kaladin doing something cool, and yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
this
legendary.
this is actually Kaladin doing something cool. This is Kaladin defeating the Pursuer at the end of Rhythm of War, and he has defeated his legacy. And that is the equivalent of killing him, as he has killed the legend that he lives. So, Paul, you were correct. It is about somebody who is legendary around Roshar. It's just not who you're thinking about. The Pursuer is famous for hunting down and killing anybody who kills him because he's reincarnated. But now that Kaladin has killed him twice, the Pursuer actually doesn't live to come back. He is killed by El in the next chapter. Back on Bray. Actually, it's in Kolinar.
All right.
Eliot, your quote ID.
boy.
The facts align. The truth has always been, will now soon manifest to all. You are correct. A traitor he is.
A lot of convoluted words for a rather simple statement. Where does that fit? Traitor he is. I was going to make you do it anyway. Can you read it again?
I was just about to ask.
The facts align. The truth that has always been will now soon manifest to all. You are correct. A traitor he is. Didn't make any more sense the second time.
This is a hard one. There's a few different scenes I could try and go for. Yeah. Oh. This. Oh, what's his name?
Uh-oh, you're in trouble, Paul. You're in trouble. He knows it.
Oh, shoot. I think I know who this is about. I cannot remember the name of who it is, though. But who says that? I need to say who says this quote.
Yes.
This is. If I'm right, this is kind of an obscure one, and you're mean to pick it.
This is mean.
This.
I told you this whole week is mean.
Okay, so this is at oh gosh, I can't remember the names. So Adolin and Maya are in the city that I can't even remember the name of. The big brick city that they walk up the walls.
Yeah.
Everlasting something ever.
Everlasting integrity. You're right.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Lasting integrity.
Lasting integrity.
Lasting integrity.
They're in that place. that the one Spren dude that was the ship captain helped them and was a traitor in doing so. That's who they're talking about. I can't remember what his name is. The person who's saying this is like the accuser guy. It's after Adolin. It's not what's his toes, the Herald guy. It's the Spren dude who's like out there to try and get him.
The judge, dude.
Well, yeah. Well, like the Herald guy is like the ultimate judge, right? But it's the attorney basically that's prosecuting him.
Yeah, it's a better word for it.
Oh my gosh.
Incorrect. Paul, your turn.
How incorrect is he? Because I'm like, if he's talking about the right person, he deserves it.
I was just going to cut him off there and let him anguish on the name.
I also feel like that name is on the tip of my tongue, and I'm afraid I don't know it either. If it is, so I'm a bit flustered. I thought I kind of knew this or had a really, really good guess, but it was not what you were describing at all. So
Don't second guess yourself. That's what we've learned on these.
that's fair. So my initial guess, given the quote that you said, and I won't make you reread it since you already did earlier. I'm just gonna guess what I thought. Yeah, like you're saying, because I can't remember the name of the captain of the whatever either. I thought this was Gavilar talking in one of the prologue chapters to like, what was it? The prologue of Oathbringer, I think it was, when he was talking to the singers. That's what I thought this was. That is incorrect.
Incorrect.
That was my educated guess.
Okay. So here comes round 2. Is the same speaker. This is not a reply. This is going to be the same person talking to the same person. So you still have to guess the same quote. I'll read the whole thing. The facts align. The truth that has always been will now soon manifest to all. You are correct. A traitor he is. That is a spren of odium. Corrupted spren. But a human bonded to one? This thing is not. Back to Eliot.
Yeah, that didn't help me at all. Are we talking about? I can't process too much, or I'm going to just hand it to Paul. The diction of this person is throwing me hard. Like this is how the like honor spren talk. But I went that route and got buzzard. Nail? I don't know. It's nail.
Incorrect. Oh, you got one more shot.
Okay. Can you read the second half of it again? I think I actually have my guess, but I wanna hear it again.
That is a spren of odium, a corrupted spren. But a human bonded to one? This thing is not.
That's the part that throws me a little bit. A human bonded to one, this one is not?
This thing is not.
So part of me has wanted to say that this is, like, my initial guess, actually, I kind of took a turn here in that whenever they were talking about Void Spren and I don't know, stuff like this is pretty wrong. But I'm just going to go once again with my gut that I thought this was Leshwi talking with Venli later in Rhythm of War whenever they kind of have their moment of realization. Because Leshwi seemed to know way more than we thought. But I don't think she's that well at that. Like, the diction is a good point that you brought up, how it was said. I don't think that's quite right. So
you are incorrect. Okay, so you guys are in the right ballpark. You're a little too far in the story, though. This is a spren talking. So you're kind of right about that. They are talking about who?
So I thought they were talking about Renarin.
Correct.
Yes.
They are talking about Renarin. So who's talking about Renarin? It is Yasna about to execute Renarin at the end of Oathbringer, and Ivory, her spren, is talking to her about Renarin.
Okay. That adds up. I was really struggling with who. Yeah, I obviously I knew it was about Renarin, but I was struggling to see like who was. I don't. Yeah, that makes sense because I'm not. My gosh, that was tricky. I'm like, it makes sense because we kind of knew it was a Spren, but we weren't
Right.
expecting. Ivory doesn't really say that
Yeah.
much.
Right.
Ivory really does not have a lot of lines, so I guess that's why it kind of threw us. That was a good one. I do think Ivory's cool. Side note.
All right. Back to Paul for your review, sir. I laughed when I read this one to start.
Yeah.
Rating this book takes me back to 2008 when I rated the movie The Dark Knight 6 out of 10. I admit to not understanding the story to even half completion. Lots of chapters are subtle. The epilogue is representative of that. But I can only relay what I could understand. I found many of the stories in the book to be as unsatisfying as soulcast grain. The book for me was indeed a dirty trick. But I'll be there when book 5 comes chugging.
Okay. So the natural logical thing would be saying that this is book 4. This is Rhythm of War. The what he was talking about made me think a bit of Oathbringer. That's where I was leaning toward. So I'm like, I wonder if that waiting for book 5 is kind of a red herring. I'm gonna say this is a 3 out of 5 rating. I just have to when book 5. I'm sorry. I mean I have to just say that this is 3 out of 5 Rhythm of War. I'm gonna just try to not overcomplicate it.
All right, Eliot?
But I really thought it was Oathbringer until that last line.
I follow Paul's logic, and I've got even more, but it's going to support the exact same answer. I feel like the scientific nature of Rhythm of War, or all the Navani like research and developing experiments and stuff like that, I think could play into the I didn't understand for what was going on in this book. Whereas Oathbringer is a little more like, emotional driven and easier to follow. Probably the reference to the Dark Knight makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know what in the world that was about.
I ignored that part. I just
The piece I liked your 3 out of 5 because they said, "Oh, this reminds me when I rated the Dark Knight 6 out of 10, which would be 3 out of 5." So my logic is pointing to 3 out of 5 Rhythm of War as well. I want to differentiate though to give a chance to pull ahead here. It's Rhythm of War, and it's Rhythm of War. I'm gonna go 2 out of 5, and they're just trying to make a comparison that everyone was mad at them for downloading Dark Knight, and so everyone was mad at them for their 2 out of 5 of Rhythm of War. Final answer.
You are correct. It is Rhythm of War. A redacted sentence that I did not read reads as the following. And now, I'm giving the book that many said is the book of the year a 1 out of 5.
Oh,
wow.
So you were correct that most of them, or other people thought their rating of The Dark Knight was harsh, and they thought Rhythm of War was 1 out of 5. Equally harsh.
That's fine. And you were absolutely right, Elliot. That was why I went with 3 out of 5. Was the half of 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have faulted you at all if you went with that. But that's that 1 out of 5. That does surprise me. It surprises me that you could rate it 1 out of 5. I don't know. Maybe it was partly a joke. Like, rating it 1 out of 5, like this was the worst it could have. Like rating it the lowest you can rate it. And being like, I can't wait for book 5. Like, I will be there for book 5. You
but
know?
then, yeah,
That's
and then
what I
talking about your 6 out of 10 rating for Dark Knight, and then saying you'll be there for book 5. Like, people are funny.
want. Yeah, this is a comical one.
All right, Eliot. It is 1-1, and here comes your trivia question to take the point for the week. Okay. Yaxka, a Thalen lady living in Kholinar, gives refuge to Kaladin, Shallan, and Adolin in Oathbringer as they try to liberate the city. What is her occupation?
The name does not ring a bell,
That's why I put it in there. It didn't ring a bell to me either.
but lady with occupation in Kholinar, I do recall them going for help to Adolin's tailor.
You are correct. That is correct. Her name is Yaxka. I almost asked for her name, which would have been really mean, but I didn't. I asked for her occupation, which is why I asked for this, because she's introduced as Adolin's tailor. It's not her name's dropped like once, but she's always referred to as Adolin's tailor. So yes, you are correct, and Eliot gets the point.
Yes.
That was good. I don't know if I would have gotten it on the technicality. I was going to say seamstress.
I probably would have given it to you.
That's fair.
So it's just
I'm impressed though. Wow. That was a tough one, but mine was an educated guess, and I'm surprised I was on, but Taylor nailed it. That's good.
All right. We will reconvene next week. Thanks for joining me, Paul and Eliot.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.